Welcome back to Yahoo Finance Live. I'm Jennifer Schonberger. Well, with the Labor Department report coming in a bit softer than expected on that top line payroll number, 209,000 versus the 230,000 expected. But on the flip side, the unemployment rate ticking down to 3.6% and wage growth coming in stronger than expected at 4.4%. For more analysis on this, I want to bring in Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su. Secretary Su, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to be with you at the Labor Department.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good to be with you.
So we did see a little bit of softening on that top line payroll number, 209,000, and we saw some revisions downward for April and May. So we're in the 200,000 range, a bit softer than the 300 print we had been seeing historically. Do you think that the Fed's 10 interest rate hikes are finally starting to cool the job market?
Well, so this is a good jobs report. This jobs report represents steady and stable growth, which is what we want in the economy, right? That is part of President Biden's economic plan, is to make sure that there is steady growth. He's helped shepherd a recovery from the pandemic-induced recession, and now we see continued growth. And combine that with the 3.6% unemployment rate, which, for the last 17 months straight, unemployment has been less than 4%. It hasn't been like that since the 1960s. And so those combined figures really demonstrate that President Biden's economic policies are working. And what we do want is that steady, stable growth as represented by today's report.
To your point, as far as strength is concerned, we saw wage growth of 4.4%, still very strong, still seeing a lot of demand for workers in this economy, especially in the services sector. How much of that strength do you think is being driven by lingering effects from the pandemic? Lower immigration, early retirements. How long do you think that's going to persist?
That's right. So we are in a tight labor market, right? In a tight labor market, workers have more power. They have more choice. They have the ability to move from jobs to better jobs. And we've certainly seen that since the president came into office. But we've also seen a return to pre-pandemic labor force participation rates, especially in that prime age workforce from 25 to 54. And that is also a sign of a strong economy, of people having confidence, of people coming into labor market looking for jobs and getting jobs. And those are all good things. And we certainly see that overall. But for women, we see that women have now marked the third straight month of the highest labor force participation rate for that age group in 75 years. These are all signs of strength. It's a sign of Bidenomics having the effect that we had. And all these things really, frankly, defy expectations.
How much longer do you think that workers are going to keep the upper hand here, and we're going to see these trends persist before the Fed finally starts to cool the job market?
Right. So I don't want to speak to Fed policy, right? But certainly what we are really committed to here at the Department of Labor and across the Biden-Harris administration is making sure that additional investments are creating good jobs in every community and also bringing industry to the U.S., right? We're focused on manufacturing. We've had almost 800,000 manufacturing jobs created since the president came into office, and we're just getting started. We have infrastructure investments. We have semiconductor and chips. So all of these things are about delivering things for the American people and also creating good jobs in every community. And again, today's report is a sign that that kind of stable growth is not only possible, but it is actually happening under President Biden.
You mentioned women's participation in the labor force at a record high, above 77%. Yet women's wages, if you look at women versus men, they're only earning 83 cents on the dollar versus men. And we're talking about women in full-time jobs here. Why is that gap still persisting, and what can be done to really close that?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Jennifer, because we talk about women helping to power this recovery, right? And women, as always, are doing our part. But there remain systemic issues that affect women. Obviously, some of it is care and the cost of care, something the president's talked about a lot. There's also occupational segregation that leads to the gender wage gap. And we see this moment, and the president has been crystal clear about his commitment to equity, leave no one behind, make sure every community comes along in the growth that we have. And so part of it is the jobs that we're creating. We want to make sure that women have access to those jobs, that they have the training that they need to participate in manufacturing, in construction, right, in all of the growth that's happening. And so those are priorities that we have. When the president says we need to finish the job, we have more work to do, that is part of what he means.
Is the president, is the administration looking to put in place any further policies to maybe help with childcare or help women women who want to participate in the workforce or participate in jobs that would allow them to aspire for higher paying positions?
Absolutely. So the president has called for policies, right, like paid leave. He's indicated the importance of care work and making care both affordable and care jobs good jobs, because most of those jobs are also done by women. One of the things we're focused on at the Department of Labor is creating workforce development programs where we bring in workers and employers to focus on how we create opportunities for women. And what we've seen is when we do that, women step up, right? Women do these jobs, and it helps to close that gap.
Switching gears, Secretary, UPS drivers are potentially on the verge of a strike. Teamsters, the labor union that represents more than half of UPS workers, some 340,000 workers, has come to an impasse with the company. Are you prepared to intervene? Are you talking with parties at all? And if there were to be a strike, what kind of impact would we see on the job market and the economy, just given how integral UPS is to supply chains and companies that are relying on that company to get customers their products and packages?
Right. That's such a good point about, the importance of the work that UPS workers have done and the importance of what that company, throughout the pandemic, right? There was increased demand for package delivery, and UPS workers stepped up to do that. I believe, as the president believes, that the collective bargaining process works, that parties coming together at the table and bargaining for wages and working conditions and benefits and the like, that is a process that we should respect. That's a process that has historically delivered not only gains for the people at the table, but to create the middle class, right? Unions made the middle class. That's something the president says all the time. And so I have faith that the parties are going to find a path and continue to try to work things out, and that there are win-win solutions, as we found when I went to the ports to help.
But you're standing back at this point. You're not intervening.
Right. We believe in the collective bargaining process, and we believe that the parties need to be given room to do what they know how to do best.
And before I let you go, Secretary, sticking with the union trend, the UAW, their collective bargaining agreement is set to expire with the Detroit 3 automakers in mid-September. President Biden has appointed a advisor, Gene Sperling. I know he's working very closely with you. How are talks going? Are you prepared to intervene to stop any striking if it were to occur?
So I am working very closely with the White House. This White House has been this administration has been very collaborative around a whole host of issues. I think that's a premature question, right? I think the broader issue, which is consistent with Jobs Day, is that jobs are growing, workers have come back to the labor market, and bargaining is taking place because in a tight labor market, workers have more power, and that's all a good thing, because that's how we create an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, right? That's how we make sure that every job is a good job. That's how we make sure that we honor what workers have done and their power in the workplace. I think those are all part of the Bidenomics vision of what makes a good, strong economy.
Secretary Sue, thank you so much for your insight. It was great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much,
Speak with you again soon.
Thank you. Me too.